Republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Did you have a question, issue you wanted to raise? Yes.
I wanted to ask you about, when does the town do, seal of the streets? Cause it's a little rough and bumpy, so I don't know, do y'all do the seal every other year, 2 years, or what?
5 to 7 years possibly, yeah. We
Oh.
did Elmsford last year.
Oh, it's bumpy, did you see it?
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bumpy, yeah. But I mean,
So, I mean, it was a little bumpy, so I didn't know,
I mean, that's how the surface treating usually is, slow bumpy.
okay.
Yeah.
And then would I do anything different on that side where I fell? Black ice, will you be doing something where the trucks will come on the side of each and drop salt or no?
We can do a little bit closer, but I can have the pickup maybe make a pass through there. We don't like to get too close because we're gonna kill everybody's lawn. I mean, the more salt that's out there,
Okay.
killing. That's why you see that brown edge along everybody's lawn.
Mhm.
You just, it's kind of like a balance. I mean, I understand with safety and the input, because all that's going right in, everything's draining right there in the Meadowbrook. You know
Oh,
what I
right
mean?
down there.
Yeah,
I wasn't talking about the grass line, I was talking about the 2 feet before you get to it. That's the map. That's
I can make sure he salts that both ways down.
because they said when they throw the salt down, they don't get close.
No, usually
It's bigger.
we put in the center and then we let the crown the road will carry it down. As it melts off the crown, it'll work its way towards the edges.
And see, it did not, that's what I was trying to tell you,
Yeah.
and I felt it did,
Yep.
it just stayed
We can
right
make
in the
it.
middle of Elmsford, they never did this space, so that's what.
Mhm.
So I didn't know if there's something good guys can do.
Yeah.
Or have a sure that he would just drop more close to the left and right.
Yeah, he can turn the center up a little bit higher.
Okay, so I didn't know what it was. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm gonna ask you about. And then you said y'all don't do the paving to every, probably 5 years.
At least, yeah, we got 128 miles of road we're dealing with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That I didn't know. And then what about when I come out my driveway on Elmsford Road, that yellow sign that was painted, it dissipated. That yellow and white where it says, sidewalk, and you can walk there. That's gone. You know what I'm talking about? When you come to the corner
Mhm.
of Janesville, Randall, it used to be painted, yellow and white, so that it says crossing.
oh, the crosswalk?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we usually refresh Moses every year. We can repaint.
Okay, yeah, that's on mine. The yellow and red, the yellow and white is gone. So you don't know where when you walk in the middle street pedestrian, where am I going?
Okay, yeah, we'll repaint all the way, usually August before school starts.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you, you get more before school
Try
starts.
to do that, yeah.
Okay, so that's what I wanted you to check on
Yeah.
that. Okay, and then you said you addressed my concerns.
Well, I'm talking to the county DOT.
About that, and then you'll get with Matt afterwards and look.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm a 99.99% sure that I'll be addressing the bad, that the town does not have any liability for black lights in their driveway. That we cannot cover the transport on the ambulance rides. The town cannot contribute to your ambulance ride.
No, medical, not
That
ambulance.
would be considered a gift of taxpayer response.
Correct.
It's true.
Okay, that's what I want to hear from you, okay, but he was like, you need to go down a small claims court and prepare for that, I'm why would I do that?
All there are avenues you can take to get your money back from the town, but just coming to the town board is not exactly how it works.
So you tell me that I go to small claims court in Syracuse and then remedy it that way since we don't have one here?
That's correct. That would be your option. I don't know if the timeline is passed. Generally, you have to file a notice of claim within 15 to 30 days.
Mhm.
So that time may be passed anyways.
Okay, I didn't know,
The town can't really do anything
okay,
to help with that.
okay, so that's a wash, but then going forward, Rob will make sure that that guy, spraying over there, don't just lay it on answer and get in the hole, he'll go left or right on the side.
Yeah, we'll try to turn up the center.
Spin, okay.
It'll broadcast, so.
And then when guys come to do the walkway side, where you walking across.
Oh, probably before school starts, probably mid-August, mid to late August, before Lemoyne. We usually go up and do Springfield for Lemoyne,
Mhm.
and then we'll do Moses and then intersection there.
Oh, okay, so that's how you do that.
And it's good that you come here anyways. Any dangerous condition, we want the town to be notified about that.
Oh,
That's know everything that's going on unless we,
Oh, I see yours.
unless we have notice. So
That sounds good. I mean, that's good.
there was some positive that came through that meeting.
I mean, I worked at FedEx and they covered half of the bill and then FedEx just kicked the 817 back to me, but it was $2. So
Right, it's just,
it's a walk moving forward. At least we know we'll have something in mind. That's gonna suck.
right.
And then as I was talking to you, Ed, about having Chase to enforce the two sides that's already there. And that was there's.
Well, that's what I'm talking to the county about, because I don't think we have the legal right to pose, let's say, a no parking zone or a whatever the legal signage is. Right now, certain signs are advisable.
Mhm,
Like if you go a yellow sign that tells you it's a 40-mile-an-hour curve,
mhm,
that's not an enforceable sign.
mhm.
That's an advisement. That curve is dangerous. You should slow down to 40 miles an hour.
Right,
If I believe if we post a no blocking sign in front of your driveway,
mhm,
it's not a legally enforceable sign. It's an advisement that we put in place, but in order for a legal enforceable sign to be put in place, a government, either the county or the state or the town of DeWitt, on our roadways has to pass an ordinance that makes that illegal. And it makes it a violation, and I don't believe that's our road, therefore we cannot post.
well, wait a minute, on, Randall Road, when I called them for it, they said the signs are put out there by the county, but we have agreement where they will do X, Y, Z, and we reimburse them. So then when I had a conversation with Chase, he did not say that, he did say he seen the two signs out there, one was the county and one was the, so what you call it? All he told me is that he didn't have the officers available to, as you said, do advisory or stop and go and sit there. That's what he told me.
Okay.
But you said-
And I haven't talked to him, I have not talked to him at all. All I'm saying is from a legal standpoint,
Correct.
we don't have jurisdiction in order to force that sign.
Mhm.
Our police couldn't pull let's say somebody is sitting at the red light and they block your driveway.
Correct.
The police have no authority.
Mhm.
It's my understanding that the police have no authority to stop someone and say, you're blocking that driveway.
Well,
It's not an enforceable sign.
and then before you get to there, it says, do not block Ellsworth.
I see, I need to ask you.
Yeah, you see, so who is important, because even if I'm not able to get out my driveway, when I'm coming in, you can't even get up Ellsworth Randall. And it's a county sign right there that says not to block, that the county put in place.
What that's saying is that there's really nothing to enforce. It's not a violation for someone to be sitting at that red light.
So blocking that driveway,
It's not, but the signs there, I think, to advise people to stop before that, but just because they don't,
mhm,
they sit there right in the middle of the road, they're turning at a light like any other light. It's not gonna be a traffic violation.
and then what about the sign that you said you seen right there where Ellsworth, and it says do not block, so that the people can, when I turn the corner, you can just go up Ellsworth, because I use either or, the driveway or just go up Ellsworth, but that's blocked. So I'm sitting there waiting on them, and then they don't have no room to move back, so I'm tired of traffic.
I understand it's inconvenient, but to block a driveway is not.
No, I say block, I said the sign.
The road elements are the same thing.
To
You
block
gotta
the road
wait
is
till-
not,
What
it's
happens
not
is
a violation.
you have to wait till the light turns green,
Correct.
and then traffic's gotta clear, then you can make a turn, and then the traffic behind you can proceed up the hill.
Mhm.
I don't know any way of resolving that, but
Okay, no way to resolve it. Okay, well, I'm gonna be opening my daycare center, which will be September the 5th. And I have 8 children that are coming to my home. What I'm trying to say is I want that safety and security for those 8 children, because I got a stroller, I can come out, push them down to the library or push them. What am I gonna do with myself and these 8 kids? And then that's what I was asking Chase about safety and security, the parents drop the kids off, I put them in the stroller and walk right up there. What am I gonna do? So if somebody fly through, hit the stroller, I got 8 kids in the stroller, that's what I'm trying to prevent.
Yep.
And that's why I'm trying to.
Anybody working with you or something?
Yes, there's 2 of us working.
One of us would hopefully see the road is clear. And then you, the other will cross or something. One of us walk out and make sure traffic doesn't take a right hand or left hand turn there.
But I can't predict when you saying about the right hand turn. That's not
Yeah.
my responsibility.
Again,
Whose responsibility is it?
I don't know what we can do.
Well-
To be honest, I don't really have any clue what we can. In general, with these types of corners is already evidenced by New York State DOT, don't consider these high traffic areas.
They don't consider them.
They don't, New York State DOT wouldn't be moving 81 or 81 if they considered it a high traffic area.
And then I just said to, Chase, that even you said about the advisement, I said, if they see some,
I said I'd look into whether we could set up a situation where it's enforced. Right now, I believe it's not enforceable. I don't know if I can get you a situation with the blockage of
or even advisement,
driveway.
correct?
I'd rather be cautious and tell you I can't do anything and then come up with some solution.
Correct,
Then I wouldn't tell you I'm gonna give you a solution here today
correct,
and not be able to come up.
correct.
So I'm being cautious and telling you it's very unlikely we can get you a solution.
Mhm.
That I will commit to trying to work with county DOT or somebody and Chase and get you an enforceable situation. Beyond that,
And even if it's
But I'd rather-
saying about legally, you're not legally, available, to adhere to that, I was asking also about advisement. That's what I was asking you also about. I get something in place before I get the daycares and up and running.
you've
and
got
these things-
several police commissioners here that have heard this conversation that I know take that to the discussion of the police commission.
Absolutely, and this is slightly tangential, and I will make it a short sentence. 43 years ago, when I was teaching at Seymour School, we walked the entire kindergarten class from Seymour School up to the old zoo. Meaning we had to cross Geddes and do all of that, and what we did is we had a whole line of kids, and we had the teachers and the teaching assistants, and we had volunteer parents that came in the morning to help us guide everybody through, and I would say Geddes Street is indeed a high traffic area, and those people aren't watching where they're going, just trying to get someplace. But that worked. We had all of those kids. So you might look into having parents volunteer, almost like PTG, to come and help you when you're going on some of these special activities.
Okay,
And the parents loved helping, and I had a whole bunch of, not just the mothers, I had a whole bunch of fathers that would come and help. So you consider all of that when you're walking those 8 kids, because we had 3 times more at least than 8.
okay,
That should help.
okay, I just wanted to find out what kind of safety and security we put in place before I open.
I hear you. I understand.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Shelley.
Yep, thanks. All right, that's the clerk to take the roll
Supervisor Mike Blanco,
here,
Counselors Doctor,
Here,
Fiorenza,
here.
Mannion,
Here.
Newland,
Here.
Good. Here. And Brett Michelle.
Here.
Supervisor, there's a gentleman in the audience. I don't know if he wants to speak.
Yes, did you have an issue, a question or concern you wanted to address this board?
But nothing serious. I have a traffic ticket to pay. I didn't know where to go. So
It's right next door. All right, glad that you asked so that you didn't sit here long. Yeah, right, go out the door here and to the left. There is a counter, a window that's for the courts.
Oh, okay. You're not gonna see anyone, just ring the bell.
okay, no, that's okay.
I'm not excusing myself from the meeting. I'm just helping this gentleman.
Oh, thank you.
Come on, young fella.
Okay,
Slow down, you're driving.
all right, You want to do the minutes, the June 26th meeting? I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Mannion and second from Joe. Call for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried.
And I suspect with the minutes and I liked them. No objection.
Okay, Frank, you want to jump into your highway annual report? Sure.
Angela, something else for you guys, like left a couple, I got a couple extra. Actually, good.
Yeah, sure.
Angela, you good?
Yeah, give 1 second.
Sure.
Sluggish. There we go.
That would snow, Ange.
Yeah, this is workable. Go ahead.
So if you guys want to start with, I can just go through each slide a little bit. You guys got any questions, just jump in, it's fine. So snow season, just the calendar year 2022, 79 trips. The year before 2021, we had 64 trips. So actually a couple of lighter winters, honestly, we usually average around 100. 6,000 ton of salt purchased just over at $245,000. The figure in what it would cost equipment hourly, so that's where we came up with that number, for all the times we plow, loader and, 12 nose and wings and 2 pickup trucks that go out and clean dead ends. Personnel costs are $336. Overtime was $55,653. And put comp time in there because if they did not comp that time, that would actually go into your overtime cost. So with them comping time, it's actually a savings to the town. And then salt, we sell salt. JD and ESM schools get salt from us. And so we receive $15,000 from them for the salt that they purchase. We started that probably. Balance in it.
Yeah,
We charge them any more than what,
No, we just charge them what the actual cost is. We're in there. It's really not. But we're making a special trip to come in. They come in when we're working, so mechanics already there, so. 210 tires recycled. Most of them are picked up on the roadside. Dumping, and recycling. I mean, we do spend quite a bit of time picking up our dead ends and our roads like Benedict, Pheasant, Myers, Corporate. I mean, there's definitely dumping that we deal with. I'm not sure how you could ever curb that with the dead ends that we got. Televisions, we did spend $394, but this year, our Battery World has taken them for free for recycling. So we'll save some costs, whatever we bring them this year. And then,
May I ask
Sure.
the illegal dumping of the televisions? Do you get notice, Rocco, that there are televisions that are illegally put somewhere, or do you have a circuit that the professionals travel to see if they can find?
kind of both, we'll get calls and then most of the time we know the problem areas that we just, revisit them probably every 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Could you add Andrews Road where the turnaround is down by the
Right
county
here.
park?
Yep.
Please.
Get down there. And if you
Thank
see something, don't be afraid to let us know. We'll grab it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
you have a very nice reconstructed bridge there.
Yes, we do courtesy, I believe, of Mr. John Dooling from the town board.
Some people, a lot of people helped that out.
So the roadside cost of disposal, that's for what we pick up throughout the year. And whatever we do with Okra obviously is Earth Day, so we don't pay for that. And mattresses, or they just charge us a unit, $15 a piece, so we took 4 of them last year. Pretty good. Most of our sign work, Linda made a note, we do in the wintertime for maintenance. So last year they, signs new and replaced were $249, posts were $114. Breakaways, which is the short piece that goes in the ground, so if a car hits it, it breaks away. 27 of them were installed. Total cost is $61,000 for that, for the material and the labor. We had 635 hours in sweeping our roads. We sweep all the roads in the spring right after the first brush pickup. And then it's sporadic throughout the summer, wherever it needs it. We try to follow the brush crew when we have personnel. But it's kind of hard to have a sweeper out every day with all the other road work that we're doing. Here's the big one for you, brush removal. A lot of hours.
Excuse me, the sweeping roads, the personnel costs and the equipment costs, so sweeping roads cost about 65,000 plus 66,000.
Yeah.
And then the street signs are separate then. Right, they're on the same page with the 61,000 for street sign increase related.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
They spend a lot of time straightening them all. Pretty much we have 2 guys all winter long. They'll be, and then there's actually 2 guys will be up in the sign room making them. So it's kind of like 4 people getting invested in that.
Okay.
We make everything internally at the highway shop, whatever we can, which is pretty much 99% of everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yep. Just.
So brush, 5,900 hours invested in that, 595 loads, 218,000 for manpower. The equipment cost with a loader and brush trucks at 173,000. The tip-in fee for Okra, most of it goes to Okra. Some of it in the north goes to Clifton, 25,677. Leaves, shorter period of time. Pretty intensive because we have to put as many guys as we can to try to pick them up before it snows. And you can kind of see where we're at with that. We usually recycle all the leaves, and that's what we make our topsoil out of. At the highway shop, we'll run a machine every 2 or 3 years, screen our own topsoil. So there's the equipment, personnel, total cost for leaves. Roadside mowing detention, we've had about 700 hours. Side note for the solar and landfill, a little bit different. We mow the whole landfill, usually end of July before August. We've been mowing it once a year pretty much, just so the trees don't grow on there. And then the rest of that cost is, we send the parks guys up there with some seasonal help to mow around the solar panels and to weed whack. So we just try to keep all of them trimmed and neat. So tree maintenance.
Just in the mowing, you work with the BACC time, right? So that it's
Yeah,
after the burn.
That's pretty much, that's why we do it like the last week in July. And like I said, we've actually been working out. We used to mow it twice a year, but we're getting away with mowing it once a year.
And I don't know if the board's aware of that, but there's several endangered bird species that have a hard time finding grassland habitat. And so, most of the areas in New York State and the Northeast have converted to forest. So birdland, the grassland species are endangered, and so we've got 3 or 4 of them that nest up there, and so drive times the mowing after their nesting season.
The grasshopper sparrow, that's a
That's what.
little tiny thing, yes. He's endangered too, so thank you, Rock.
So tree trimming and maintenance for dead trees, roadside trees. And that includes our parks too. 35,000 with Grimm. And that's anything emergency, we get a windstorm or anything like that. Like Friday afternoon, believe it or not, we had a few trees come down. That little bit of a burst we had Friday with that rain that came through.
Lightning.
Kind of like through the center of town, like through Drumlins, Hamilton Parkway, and it went over to Maple Drive. Got a probably good 1.5 to 2 inches of rain in like 45 minutes. It was really weird and crazy. Those are the costs that are associated with it and the hours we got invested. Catch basins, 71 repaired, 648 cleaned. Personnel is there, equipment, the materials, rebuild them, concrete, lumber, We build and form, pretty much tear them apart when we rebuild them and pour them solid with concrete. So we try to clean. The town is divided up into 4 sections, kind of like with our brush pickup. So being an MS4, we try to clean half the town every other year. Like this year, we're working in section 3 and 4. Last year, we did 1 and 2, just to clean all the catch basins to keep the debris out of them, because it helps with anything. Try to minimize all that silt and anything going into our waterways.
And MS4,
Doug could probably explain that a little bit more. You over there, Doug? Stormwater management, the size of our town.
Yeah, it's an acronym. I'll get it wrong. Municipal Stormwater Sewer System, I believe.
The MS4.
Yeah. And there's, the regulations are all the same for stormwater, but because we're an MS4, we're in an urbanized area, then we have to document with succinct documentation what we do for all the stormwater activities. So on an annual basis, Rock and I and Ange get together and make sure we've got everything well documented from a stormwater perspective. So it includes spill prevention plans, cleaning the catch basins, the projects we've had in the town that were over an acre. And there's a bunch of other things that go with it, but that's pretty much it. And then there's a community outreach that we contract with regional planning. So there's a community outreach you might see like in the Eagle Bulletin there from time to time, once or twice a year, there's a supplement that tells you about stormwater activities and pollution.
thanks.
Yeah.
So just to touch on that a little bit more, like when we were out cleaning catch basins and repairing them. So the guys are filling out sheets and sweeping too. So we basically have logs, addresses, you know, what we did when we did it. So that way we have all that for, if we do get audited for, like Doug says, for our maintenance, you know what I mean? It's good housekeeping to keep. I mean, it's just a lot of documentation, but you gotta do it. It's just, there's no getting around it. The guys get a little frustrated, but you know, I have to stay on. Something we have to do. Permits pretty much, we didn't have too many permits last year. These are highway permits, like if Grid or somebody wants to. We usually charge a $250 fee and then $1 per foot. If they're doing like 1,000 feet of gas line, it would be like $1,250 permit. But there hasn't been too many projects lately. For permits.
Is Verizon the 5G?
Well, if they do anything in the ground, we usually give them a permit, but we don't charge them a fee because of the guys agreement we got with them. But I haven't heard nothing from them lately. You heard anything from Verizon on 5G at all?
No, the last time I spoke to Verizon about 5G, that's still a ways off. They just don't have the technology to get things going, although you see it on your phone pop up. I don't know how much is really out there.
So ditching and storm sewer replacements, $2,700. There's the personnel equipment and the materials. Pretty much for all of our storm sewers that we actually have already in the ground, which are, you know, agent. So most of the time when we replace any of the pipe, it's replaced with plastic. Number 2 stone perforated, so we can, you know, absorb some of that water into the ground as much as possible.
And you're building French drains.
Pretty much, yeah. These are,
That's important.
yes. Absolutely. When we did all of Park Hill, it was all done that way, which is, I think, helped a lot over.
Helped tremendously. We actually monitor Lake Creek. And for years, Park Hill, Parkwood, that whole area drained into the creek with almost every rainstorm. It takes a big rainstorm now for water to reach the creek. Because they rebuilt it with the French drain system, so where the water's going now is out of the pipe and into the stone. Where in the old days, the pipe carried the water right to the creek. Now the pipe perks into the ground and it's returned to the groundwater. And it's not less than 2-inch rain as it get to the creek.
Yeah, we got a lot of capacity. So these are water main repairs, restorations for the breaks, topsoil and blacktop. Pretty much the personnel equipment. As I said before, topsoil wise, we have not been purchasing it. We screen and use our own. Obviously the blacktop we get from Barrett off the county bid. Car maintenance, we service all the police cars as much as possible. You can see we do the parks, water, the rec vehicles, planning and zoning. police cars, there's the parts and labor. The bus is, in my opinion, a little questionable. We don't use it nearly enough and we got a lot of labor and parts into that. So I mean, I don't know. I think that's something we should revisit in the future as far as possibly going back just to renting them. I don't know. We'll see how much more life we can get out of this bus we got. Roads that we striped, yellow and white is there. Who's got any questions? Hot mix paving, these are the roads that we did last year with milling and paving that we charged to our chips over on this one side for this slide.
A lot of this is contracted.
This one was, we tried to break it up a little bit. This one was contracted. Woodchuck Hill, we did, last year we did Maple to the Manlius line. This year, we just finished that project. We went from Maple to Jamesville Road. But we did Briarwood. Briarwood, for those who don't know, is over actually off of Dogwood. Kind of like you got to go through all of Manlius's roads to get to it, but we do have 3 or 4 houses over there on the back side of that. We did Tapton Craigie area last year with Blacktop. That's what the rest of those roads are. So this should have been called a Cape seal instead of a chip seal. It's actually a chip seal with a fiber micro over surface treatment. We did all of these roads in the north last year. This was a strict chip seal only, Benedict, Pheasant Myers and Roberts. So more also Pickers, Eva. And then this is just a micro pave. This is just surface treatment, just basically to seal and add a wear surface to the road, which doing this prolongs the life of the road by at least 5 to 8 years. Try not.
That's hard to interrupt, but the chip seal Benedict through Roberts and then the chip seal more through Leva.
Yep.
That's just the same chip seal, right?
Yep, just a chip seal only, put it down, sweep it up.
It did 2 different tables, just show the different stations.
Yep. Yep. And then, like I said, this is just a fiber micro, just as a maintenance for the roads. We try to get as long as we can out of the road before we mill and pave it. Obviously, if we can surface treat it and make it last longer, that's cost effective for us. This is hot mix paving that we did ourselves. We rented a paver. So we tried, these are all the roads that we milled and paved ourselves last year. Which are doing, actually, we started today doing shoulders out here on Southern, as you can see when you leave. So the goal is to rebuild the shoulders and mill and pave the road and actually add a 5-foot bike lane on each side. That's what we're working. So hopefully this will be our first road with bike lanes on to tie into the, obviously the canal, and then hopefully 290 gets redone and the state puts them on there to connect everything together, which knowing the state, they probably do that. So this is a list of all the training we do every year. Anybody's got any questions on that? We try to do like snowplow safety every October, just to redo the same thing, just to refresh their minds. We do all this pest stuff yearly. We just did flagger training. We try to do it in June when the seasonal guys are getting here, so they got the training also. So they're out there. If they have to flag it all, they have training and they're certified. Just other responses we do, flooding, obviously, signs, tree limbs, accidents, ceased animals, water breaks for the salting in the winter. Like I talked a little bit about that with Char. I mean, it's we don't try to cover the whole road. I think it'd be impossible. And I mean, we probably don't make the cost of our salt, and I don't want to see us do that, but we'll try to make a little extra effort over there. But I mean, usually what we do is we put the salt in the center of the road and the traffic carries it around and the crown brings it over. I mean, you're already, I don't need to tell you about salt, so you can tell us about salt.
Reduce our salt consumption, we'd be all for it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So that's why, well, we have all computerized spreaders in the truck, so we do control that. You know what I mean? But
It's still, you could see weeks of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got monitoring chloride. That's. It's been. Worse, steady increase. Public expectation of black roads is increasing. It's all consumption with. Not good. Fishing water was. Not to mention, if you have the black spot disease in your elm trees, Anybody ever have
Yes, we do,
the
yeah.
black spots on them?
And they never turn like autumn light. They just,
Yeah, and the reason they get that black spot is fungus in the soil, and fungus in the soil is due to weak trees because they've been damaged by the salt. You usually get them in your front yard.
That's where it is.
Trees in your backyard stay healthy. But the fungus does transmit to locations. But anyways, that's the sign of the impacts of salt.
Do they have any other questions?
Nice job, Rob.
I got a comment. I understand this report is for 2022, but recently, 2023, they did a great job of paving Green Tree where I live. And my street is a thoroughfare for people from St. James, who is a rehabilitation center, people with wheelchairs, about 30 people live there. They all come over from their place, and they all go down Green Tree to get to the plaza, where they go to Walgreens and Dollar Store and every other thing that's there. And every time that they're coming by now, they're stopping, if they see me out front or something, they're saying to me, oh my God, this is fantastic for the wheelchair. So really a big help the way the Green Tree was paved because of all the people coming down there with wheelchairs. Great job. Well, they did knock my mailbox. One mailbox knocked over and it wasn't mine.
of course.
Even though it's.
And they repaired it in about 1.5 days. And it's knocked down like 5 or 6 times.
They just run up to the house.
Want me to go to my higher read? You guys are-
That's big.
Let's do that.
So any other questions?
And I'm always available for questions. You guys know that, so anytime. So we have one open position, the Parks Department, if you remember, we brought, I think it was back in April, maybe, we brought over Jonathan Martin, who got his license from the parks to the highways. He's doing a good job. He's learning. He's a young kid and he's definitely a good worker. So we have a candidate for his job, Brandon Bertolini. He actually lives in DeWitt, works for their county parks department and maintenance. He's worked for us part-time before, so he kind of knows our routine, is a good worker. So, we'd like to bring him in at, step 8 at $20.71 an hour with a start date of Monday, the 17th. Any questions?
I like that you're familiar with him, not just on
I
paper.
think I'm, I understand.
Brandon?
Is his father Jimmy?
They don't.
Yeah, Carrie's saying, yeah.
I grew up with Jim in Park Hill. He said he's from DeWitt.
Yeah, I probably went to school with the other Berlin kids years ago.
As much as there's no anonymity in this hemisphere.
Great.
You know him.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to Joe and a second from Karen.
Yes, please.
Call for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Staying? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Okay. Let's go right down to actually, I'm gonna jump to the ARPA funds, Sarah, and then we'll come back to the sidewalks.
Makes sense.
If the projects I got Doug here too, if I miss anything, but we did pass out a document. Rock, Doug and I sat down a couple of times and kind of whittled this down. Because there was quite a shopping list of projects that we've always talked about. And so we took some out that we think there's likely candidates, for example, for LWRP funds. Other projects or potential for CFA funds, and others we may be able to get through our elected officials at the state level. So we looked at some of the things that we felt were the most important and areas that we could implement with the ARPA funds. And not likely to get a lot of additional help elsewhere. So like the water department. If you talked about the SCADA system, and we've had quite a lengthy list of water projects, but we intend to go back to the Environmental Facilities Corp, which is state arm for water and sewer projects, and continue to focus on grants for a lot of those projects. And recently bonded for the water tanks and so on. So,
And if you wouldn't mind,
yeah,
I use of the acronyms because I know that we have residents who are confused between grants and ARPA grants.
okay, ARPA is the American Recovery,
Rescue Plan Act,
what's pardon me?
American Rescue Plan Act.
That's correct.
American Rescue Plan.
Yes.
Okay, American Rescue Plan.
Black.
And so these were what, often referred to in the layman's terms as the Biden money, but it was one of the first infrastructure programs that was offered post-COVID to help the economy recover, but also to address many of the failing and aged infrastructure that the country has experienced in its own budget pressures over the last 50 years or so. So these monies are dedicated to roads, bridges, water treatment, water delivery, water restoration, recovery projects, almost any infrastructure relation that the municipal governments have control over. So it was a shot in the arm, if you want to call it that, to get shovel-ready projects out into the community and help the community maintain its infrastructure. And so I've been supervisor for 15 years, and we've long talked about some of the neglected or avoided costs related to our own properties, this building for one of them. And so I had Doug include some of the projects that we are not recommending with this package, just so you see the cost. It's long been one of my hopes that, let's say, we put a geothermal heat system. We have a report we did with the NYSERDA project that shows the geothermal transition for this project is extremely expensive. It's a $2 million cost. Well, I'm bringing it here today just to show you that we're not recommending that. But we're looking, Doug is working with NYSERDA locally to keep a pulse to that project at some point in the future. There may be hopes of other granted funds. However, if you go right to the top of the list, the town HVAC system is extremely important. It's something we ought to do. It's $100,000 project in both tracks. Who's responsible for property maintenance, and Doug recommended this one as well. I now jump down to number 3. If you jump to number 3, the town hall security enhancements. This is something we've talked about with the town hall employees for years now. And this project is an expensive project, but we hope that the likelihood of an event in this building is low. But the consequences of an event in this building are terrible, it would be tragic. And so we're recommending that we go through and we put the town hall security replacements or modifications to the floor upstairs in place. You can't put a cost on what this will do in terms of security and the attitude of the workers. Protection standard. Okay, and then this is related to Sarah's, the next one, number 4, sidewalks. As you know, we have like 10-year-old numbers that say the cost is $13 million to put sidewalks everywhere we'd like to. That's probably closer to 25 million today, Google's cost. But we have these funds, secondary locations that we feel important. And so the Waring Road project, Greek Fest alone warrants the implementation of that project. And then we've got Carrier Park, but we know we have some physically challenged individuals that live in the Kinney Street area that have been begging for a sidewalk. A lot of it's under this. It hasn't been maintained for years, so there is some sidewalks in some of the stretches along Kinney Street. Well, the area that we're recommending is from James to Kirkville Road. The Village of East Syracuse is one of the most heavily used areas, both sides of the street. And then again, there are locations in there that don't have sidewalks that we know are dirt paths right now and are used by folks with wheelchairs and other disabilities. And so it's just a good spot to catch up. And we were recently awarded, I think you got the notice, of $50,000 grant from the Onondaga County's Community Development Fund. And there's the town hall parking lot, which is thoroughly needed. And so then the last section there is our recommended funds right now. We have just under a $2 million balance, but we can come back for some of these other funds. But right now, we're recommending that we do the Pasco system, the sidewalks, and security for the building in a total of just under $1.5 million.
I have a question on the Kinney Street sidewalks. I haven't seen we have updated numbers for that? Is that the?
Well, right before, these numbers were put together before we received the county's funds. But so we've estimated 450,000 for both sides of the street. Those numbers are fairly.
So yeah, so you're planning on taking out what's there, or it's like one side of the street through there basically has sidewalks the whole way. The other side basically doesn't.
Right. And so what we're planning is to go in, these are what we think are maximum costs. Because one of the commitments that ROC made, which is going to help us tremendously, is the prep work. Doug's costs for these projects were actually higher than we're showing. But one of the things that's going to make it a little bit cheaper, we don't know the actual cost, is that ROC's going to go in and take out where the sidewalks need to be removed. Put the stone in place, and then the contractor will just be able to come in and frame and pour a concrete. But so most of the prep work is going to be done by the highway parks groups. But we don't know the entire locations yet. You've got to go through the whole existing sidewalk and find out what's eligible for this. Let's say he gets to 10% is only salvageable. Well, if that's the case, you might know the whole thing. But we can go in there and save half of it. Then you leave those sections and only pour where it needs repair.
And there has been a rumor floating that if we don't use all of the ARPA funds, which is separate from various and different grants, this 1.94 million, the rumor has said that if we don't spend it by December 31st, is the rumor, then the ARPA funds go away.
Well, Carrie's right here.
I haven't seen that, but I can look into it.
Thank you.
It was my understanding it has to be obligated by 2024 and spent by 2026. So
That helps. Thank you.
That's my understanding.
Okay. Obligated
We've got another,
meaning it has to be assigned to something.
yeah.
by 2024.
That was my last understanding.
That's okay. It's a good understanding. And spent by 2026, you said? Thank you, Carrie.
So we've got another 6 months to decide where the other half really goes.
Thank you.
But I suspect by the end of the summer, it's like the other half.
I'm worried you're gonna put it on a golf course side or
No, residents.
We'll get you back for you, Joe. Back to the Kinney Street one, what type of right of way does the town have on the other side? What is the land use there? Are we going to anticipate, having to go with,
There's patches of sidewalk there now. On the east side, there are patches of sidewalk, but we have the right of way.
on both sides of the road?
No, you're gonna have to talk to the county on that. That's a county road. So we're gonna have to go with a permit with the county, right, Doug? I mean, they're gonna wanna see a plan for that sidewalk. And I also, Doug, didn't we talk about going from Kirkville to Carrier Park on just the one side though?
We did. Yeah, but
Yes.
we're recommending that at this point. And I thought that the county road ended it Kirkville. The next, it goes all the way to the village.
Yeah.
Through the village.
No, the village picks it up at
So it
James.
ends at James.
And the county owns actually James Street there, headed towards the food bag, and then we own James Street headed towards the library. And it's very
Because
confusing.
we own James Street, west of Thompson. Right? I mean, the state,
Mm-mm.
no,
No,
when they
that's-
did, when we had, how did we get dragged into the problem in front of Gilligan's?
Oh, they love giving us all the problems. Cause it was an existing sidewalk and we had to maintain it. That was their that was their law.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it was their road. They just,
Alright.
yep. And we'll have to get a permit from the county for Kinney Street.
Yeah, we worked that before, Rob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the same with Janesville Road, we got a permit, that's fine.
you know, Doug and Brock, let's sit down and make a list of locations and items that we want permits for other things from the county as well. Maybe able to go to Randall Road here on our street. So make one application for permits. We've got a number of locations with county issues with the crosswalk, right? Is that been just volleyed up to the state
For the,
or where?
yeah, well, no, for Nottingham, for the school zone, that's up at the state. Now we're waiting on them. For a crosswalk from the county was basically, they're never doing a crosswalk, sidewalks. I think that's something we could tie into here with doing the sidewalks on Waring, that you could probably, I can argue for a crosswalk from Waring to the Tecumseh entrance if the JD School District finishes off the sidewalk out in the street.
Okay, so anyways. This is our recommendation at this point. I think it's all projects you would support. Is there any? Yes. Folks that will not support these projects with recognizing there's still roughly $500,000 that we need to obligate.
I just want to clarify that I know it's redundant, that this bunch of monies, these ARPA funds are separate and distinct from other grants for which we residents and companies and such into it can apply. So this can be, the other grants are, or this grant, they are supplemental to other sources of funding.
Right.
Thank
For
you.
example, if you took the $50,000 of the community block grant,
Correct. That one.
that will come off of the top of the Kinney Street project. So whatever the cut, we're obligating up to $450,000 for the project. It's our hope that all these projects come in lower, right? And then we have those funds. We're able to, so after this meeting, we're gonna authorize Bud to go, authorize Doug to go to bid on these projects. When we have costs of the bid, we will be very close to having what we think are final numbers, but we should be able to adjust these budgets to utilize that $500,000 plus any excess here. The hope is there's excess, right? What if the bids come back and they're higher? Then we've got to take from that $500,000 to finish these projects. So that's one of the reasons for the delay and not trying to chew up the whole $2 million in one bite, because the numbers could flow. What we don't want to do is start a $500,000 project, with the security enhancements to the building and then find out,
2.1.
yeah, right? Then we're gonna be putting more money in, right? It's gonna come out of our budget, so. So.
Thank you for that.
But we do know we have an additional $50,000 right now for grant money on our account or dedicated for sidewalks on King Street.
And it's also important, we've talked around it too, is to let folks know this isn't going to increase their taxes. I think bottom line, even though we're talking grants and government money, some folks may not understand the difference. But this is not going to affect any of their taxes at all.
So they've been waiting for some Kenny Street sidewalk forever.
Yeah, that's another reason to keep the cost below this obligated number. So that it doesn't affect.
Can you just go into what's the 30,000 differential on the Waring Road? There's a cost estimate above, and that's the one that I'm familiar with that has it at 260. But you're marking 290.
It didn't come to the meeting with the 260, you might have offset some of the county funds or.
I just bumped it for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
That's good in the explanation. Just wanted to make sure that somebody
Logic
needed to
is-
hit 6 and hit that.
Our detail was what we talked about, the
Yep.
260 at the meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, good.
But we'd rather tell the board hi.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Right.
I just didn't know if there was some like big thing that Doug found out, like there's a sewer entrance or whatever that nobody had an idea about.
Sounds like Doug did not find a big thing.
I should have called you before and told you I did that.
Thanks.
So, from a resolutionary standpoint, I just would like to, and I don't know, man, if this has got to be done for each project, probably. Authorize to prepare a bid
For each of those
for
projects.
each of those projects. Okay, so that can be inclusive of the Waring Road.
That's exciting.
Yeah, you wanna give your presentation on Waring Road?
I shared it with everybody.
Back to the votes.
Yeah, that's great. I shared it with everybody. The guy that didn't even read the slides isn't here, but, and I'll pass this in, Ange, for you. It's an attendance. There were probably between 25 to 30 people there. Everybody was very excited. There were a couple questions regarding funding mechanisms. So they were very happy to hear that it would be free to them, so to speak. There was one gentleman that had a nicely manicured lawn that was concerned where the sidewalk placement would be in terms of disrupting his flower beds. But by the end of it, he was even talking himself out of moving the flower beds. So I think he was okay with it. And also included was one letter I received from a resident that asked I didn't open it until I was home. They are not in favor of it. They do live on Waring Road. He explains his reasons. But I didn't see it as a hard no. And he was raising his concerns. It was respectful. There was nothing belligerent, if I should, in there, but a well thought out letter. Everybody else was very excited. And to Max's point, there is now concern that if they do get the sidewalks, it'll increase walkers to Tecumseh, but there is no sidewalk entrance into Tecumseh off of Waring. And so it's a safety issue with the district. Parents are literally walking within 2 feet of moving buses because there's mucky grass and lawn and then the driveway.
And I have spoken to Peter Smith before about this, and they would be willing to, at least time, to extend the sidewalk, but there was nothing for it to go to, so there was no. Like, they didn't want to do it to the road because that would just, in their minds, again, encourage people to walk, and since it was. I think it's part of a complete system where there's a sidewalk on one side, there's a crosswalk, and then sidewalk to the door. I think, JD, because that's it's like 40 feet of sidewalk that they need to put in there. I don't think that.
One of the things that after hearing this, I'm gonna recommend is that we work with the school district and prepare an addendum to our RFP. Because that we can refuse, right? We'll have the right to the obligation not to include. But if we put out the request for proposals in district and we get it, what the additional costs and designs are. They can of the cost. If they don't want to do it, or they think they could do it separately or individually cheaper, they could do that. They have nothing to lose by.
Yeah, I think that is a necessary part of the project, so if we wanna include it in our bid and they can either take it or just reimburse us if we, however it gets done.
Right.
That would be, I think going at them with, here's a number and we can get it done, they can either say yes or, oh, we think we can do it cheaper, which I doubt they.
But they would have to work with them on the placement of the sidewalk where they want it located.
Sure.
And by them, we're talking about the JD School District,
Correct.
which is going to be their obligation, again, will be separate. And if it gets put into this particular grant, the way that you're talking, they would reimburse us their piece. Is that what I'm
Yes.
understanding?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
That's the idea.
Joe, to answer your question, the sidewalk is not on the golf course side. It's going to be on the residential side, because of where the pine trees are location, and the town has a right of way, so it would all be covered within the right of way. I don't think we're going to have a problem getting a desired 60% approval rate, even though there's no.
Yeah.
There's no
And they want to, so
specific number. I think that we're going to be good.
we'll hurt those pine trees.
The one thing we did talk about, Sharon, I did a little bit more. Looking into where the movement of the telephone poles,
Oh, yeah.
right? So there were a series of telephone poles and off the top of my head, I can't remember, but it's like 5 to 7 poles. We talked about trying to accelerate the project as quickly as possible if everybody was for it, but the issue that would come up would be movement of the poles and coordination with utility companies. So when we went back out and looked, not only is grid on there with primary and distribution power, but you also have Verizon and Spectrum. So the coordination aspect of moving that pole could lag. So, when we looked at putting that together, there may be some type of temporary access through the pole area.
Yeah.
Right, and then when the poles finally get moved, because sometimes that drags on for,
Years.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, I like get Park Hill, right, the double poles.
Patchwork, do, 5, 6 sections of sidewalk or more.
It might,
Hit a pole and then hit a 12, 15-foot stretch of crushed stone that waits for. Oh,
well, it might even be, right, temporary concrete that comes out around until what time we move the pole.
I'd be reluctant to pour concrete.
Could use asphalt, like an inch of
Yeah,
blacktop, just
yeah.
to make it a smooth surface.
Some, yeah.
Minimal cost.
Something temporary, something temporary that.
But I just throw that out there, but.
Yeah, and Doug brought up another good thing. So everybody would like this to happen tomorrow. Ideally, there was a push to get it done before Greek Fest because of the foot traffic that they see. So we are floating the idea, if we can get it, get everything out, the bid out, and get folks online, doing the part down by St. Sophia's first this fall, and then coming back and doing the more, is it northern section, going up to Tecumseh. Southern, whatever, the part from where we left off at St. Sophia's up to Tecumseh School in the spring, because depending on when the thaw is, we may not be able to get that first weekend in June cleared off, but at least the area by St. Sophia's will be complete. And so it would be dividing the project into two with the winter break.
My initial reaction to that is that'll drive costs. And I could be wrong, but that mobilizing a contractor this year and then again next year, what's more likely feasible is the prep work gets done this fall, concrete for next year.
That would help though too with the timeline.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm saying that
Yeah,
you're trying to beat.
Yeah, I think it gives you some work in the fall.
If you could get the concrete poured in the spring, that would work. By the time we go to bid, get the prep work done, rip the lawns up and.
Rock, would the prep work get, I don't know, washed away, if you will, during the winter, or would there be enough? Base.
We put stone down, we wouldn't wash it. All depends on timing too, because for us, it could be a challenge. We have to be careful because, like I said, towards the end of October. Well, September, we're switching trucks over. In October, pretty much November, all of the manpower is picking up leaves, so I would not be able to do much excavating. It's gonna be timing for us when the bids are out
Okay.
for what we can do. I mean, we, like, when me and Ed and Doug talked, we were Waring Road, I'm not so sure we're gonna be able to do a lot of prep work, but we figured highway for Kinney Street mostly doing the excavating. But we can definitely help out with Waring if we have manpower available.
Well, I guess then it's just dependent on the, yeah, okay, all right, sounds good.
Okay, so let's start with the sidewalks on Waring Road. I'll entertain a motion from Sarah and a second from Max. The vote, all in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Yeah, go right back to the top of the list again now. I'll entertain a motion for the HVAC ESCO system. From Jack, second from Karen. I'll call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion from Angela for the town hall security.
Yes, please.
Max, are you in favor? Second from Joe. I'll call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Sidewalks and Kenny.
Aye.
Sarah.
I'll second Sarah.
So, okay, a second from Karen. I'll call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carried. Okay, thank you. That's a lot of work to be had. It's dog and rock busy.
Yeah.
All righty, let's move on. Let's go to the remaining sewer hookup discussion. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. You all have to sit here. She doesn't. Budget adjustments.
Budget adjustment. I can't really see. My eyes are dilated, so.
Come over here.
Can't see how close.
That's a good reason. Let's see.
Okay.
And she sent the email, so.
Okay, the first
Will
one.
this help you? Yeah, she sent the email. It's good.
Do you want me to? Yeah, I can see it. So the first budget adjustment is for the communications consultants. We need to increase that contractual line $25,095. And since Melissa has resigned and her salary line is open, I'm going to recommending taking it from that line.
You want to do this one at a time? You lay it out and then we'll vote on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll entertain a motion
I so moved.
from Karen, a second from Joe. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion's carried. Okay.
In other words, this item is a wash.
Yeah.
Yes.
The next one is the auditor, their final bill came in at 26,000 and we had 25,000 budgeted. That's really because we went out. Requesting quotes last year, so.
Yeah.
That will just come from the fund.
Comes from what, Karen?
Fund balance.
Fund balance. Okay, good.
Doesn't include the East Syracuse, village.
That's, separate fund.
That comes out of the LDC. Yeah.
The
funds for
Sherman
auditor
district, yeah.
village, right. Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Joe, a second from Carrie. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. What's your next one?
Okay, the next one is the SCADA system for the water department. Believe the invoices are starting to roll in, and we had approved it last year, but because the cost rolled into this year, we didn't have it in the budget. So we need to up the equipment line, 238,500.
The water department.
Water department, yep. Once we determine what we're going to do with the fan, the revenue will come from that.
Motion from Gary, second from Max. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion's carried.
Um,
Did you need a motion now to move it from the ban, or you want to do that later?
no, that'll be later when you guys decide. The next is the water tank repair, same thing, did it last year. The final payment is due this year, I believe Matt said probably in the next month or two, we're gonna get the final bill. So same thing. Increase the repair line and it'll come from the bond when we,
Bond, or is the revenue start?
so we have the revenue, the
Increase rates.
money from the ban, but we won't get the other side of we won't get the revenue until we bond, turn the ban into the bond.
Got it.
So it's a lag
It's an
issue.
accounting,
It's an
yeah.
accounting snafu.
Yeah,
Okay.
This could lag until 25.
well, so the ban is, expires in October, so we need to make a decision on
Got it.
changing the ban to a bond and doing additional monies, or just doing what we took out last year.
Are we starting to see increased revenue from the rates increase?
I think, yes, yes. Last year revenues went up for water, and so we should be seeing more this year.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion. Jack, a second from Karen. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain, motion's carried.
The next one is the HR consultant. We lowered the budget last year. Because time we had Melissa. Now that she's gone, I'm asking that we continue to use HR Connections. Lori has been helping me with, a lot of the HR stuff, and we're currently updating the handbook because there's some new policies that are coming out, so. That I was going to take from the bookkeeper line.
I'll entertain a motion from Carrie, a second from Sarah. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, I guess the question, do we anticipate filling the bookkeeper line, or are we just leaving that open through the end of the?
It's in the talks.
Fair enough.
It's an ongoing conversation, but that position is my understanding that the supervisor has an option, a bookkeeper to the supervisor, of which Melissa was slotted with. And that's one of the reasons, if you look at the budget, she was in the supervisor's department. And the main push that I wanted her for was grants.
Yeah.
And because since I've been here, I've done nothing but unload grants on the board. Comptroller's office, but I think, and I need to check with Matt, that I only can have one or the other. And for 15 years, I've had an assistant, and poor Angela has inherited most of that. And so I'd like to get through November, and if I'm fortunate enough to be here next January, I think I'd like to be for the system and myself if I had an assistant. That's. Gary needs to let us know if there's a need for additional personnel in the comptroller's office in the meantime too. So I'm sure I haven't been participating, but I'm sure that's been a discussion in the budget committee.
Okay, the next one is the newsletter. I believe there's one more issue going out. So, and we're already over budget on all of those lines. So this will just have to come from the fund balance, the publication, postage, and publication. For printing.
Where were you taking that money?
It's just gonna have to come from the fund balance.
Jack had some
Jack wrote an
suggestions.
email with some Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I wrote an email to all of you, Saturday, July 8th. You want to address Carrie's first? Or
You want to move the money?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll entertain a motion from Jack. Second from Karen. Call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained, motion carried. So that's the budget adjustments.
Yeah. So, and then as long as we're talking about the newsletter, we might as well finish it now.
Yes.
In my email, I asked, by the budget committee, I was asked by the budget committee to lower the newsletter from 3 to 2. And, in 2023, we've already sent out one that is titled Spring and Summer in early May. And in early, fall, September, we're sending out the second one, so we will eliminate one for this year. That's been accomplished. I met with Peter Clark. We have several options to consider. We have 5,000 email addresses for residents. And we send out 9,300 newsletters per time at a cost of about $8,900. The postage cost is going to be going up again in 2023. So one idea that we were looking at, Peter Clark and myself, is to do a once a year Town of DeWitt handbook sends out to residents containing all important information. Just need to know about contacts at the Town of DeWitt, when the pickups are and everything. And we're not yet sure the cost of that because we haven't constructed the handbook yet as to how many pages it would be, so we have to get a printing price on it and everything like that. Peter Clark envisioned it as, some of you younger people will not know what this is, Sarah. The old phone book used to have all that.
I know what the, yeah. My mother still has one in her drawer.
So do I. Good, you can borrow your mother's. But that's what we envisioned it to be, something like.
Just let your fingers do the walking through the yellow pages.
Directory.
Oh, before the yellow pages, front.
Oh, the white part.
Yeah.
Wow.
The rec department may also prepare two-sided per request of the supervisor, who always wants two-sided papers, which we agree. One sheet of paper for seasonal updates, and that could be emailed out to the residents, or if we're able to get to the point of emailing it out, that's even better because email is 0. So we're looking into that also. Another suggestion we discussed was throwing it in Wegmans and DeWitt and James Street, our 2 libraries, and the 2 Topses in the Town of DeWitt. And I'll be getting quotes for the size of what that sheet will cost. And after I have a summary of those considered, I'll come back to the town board with further recommendations, but we're always looking for suggestions from you guys.
Okay, I have one. Since we just okayed the new electronic sign system, what about putting the 2 pages of important information about which Ed was speaking that you sanctioned, putting those on our electronic billboards as the dates come? I know we always have the brush and the pickup, and I live by that sign in front of the firehouse. What about these other important dates, putting that on our electronic sign, which is another 0 cost?
We have 3 electronics.
Right, correct.
Not just the one.
We have Bishop Grimes, we have the one on at the firehouse, and and we have the
Carrier Park.
at Carrier Park. What if we put those important as they come up?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll put that in there.
it's also a 0 cost thing since we just got that new system or it's on its way.
Yeah. You know, we got the new software we approved the last time.
Yes, that's what, I don't know if it's in there yet or not, whatever it means, but, okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any questions?
Thanks.
Cool. Good ideas.
Okay. I think we're all set, right, Carrie?
I have my report, but whenever you're.
Oh, yeah. Is that on the agenda?
It was supposed to be, but
What is that?
my annual report.
Anyway,
Maybe I might have.
It's okay.
You want to do it next time? Or do you want to do it this time?
If you guys have other things to do, I'll have to get with you on dates.
Hard copy. I don't recall.
It was supposed to be last meeting and then you guys
Yeah,
moved it.
right,
It's probably my fault. It's probably on my list and
I would say let's just do it now. Let's. Get over with. I know you're not gonna, I know you don't have a really long presentation,
No, I don't.
but we don't have to drag you back here and.
I can email the presentation later today
Yeah.
to everybody.
My hard copy has questions. Go ahead. I can catch up with you anytime.
Sorry. No, it's okay. All right, so 2022. You guys want me to do this since nobody hasn't? So the major functions of the comptroller's office is payroll, accounts payable, New York State retirement system reporting, the budget, annual audit, annual update document, cash management, workers' comp, disability management, employee benefits administration, human resources, grants management, and some other reporting. So for payroll in 2022, we paid a total wages of $7,647,000. This was a $425,000 increase or 5% increase from 2021. Overtime went up $110,000. Unused paid time off went up $10,000 and other employee benefits increased $5,000.
I don't recall. It was probably a month ago when I last looked at this. Was the overtime broken down by department?
I did not. I can get you that. Yep.
Yeah, I think that was one of my comments.
Sure.
Like to see where we're spending overtime.
The major increase, I do have written down where the increase came from. It was the three major departments that increased were planning and zoning, highway, and police.
Makes sense.
And then we paid retroactive pay of $22,796 and workers' comp wages of $97,000. So a reduction of $26,000 last year.
Did you say 97,000?
$97,000, yeah.
And that was a reduction.
Well, that we paid a total of $97,000 and it reduced by $26,000.
Okay, no, that's good.
We pay full wage when a police officer is out on workers' comp.
I didn't think about, yeah, that makes a lot more sense now. Okay.
Moving on to accounts payable. So in accounts payable, we review vouchers and process the checks. There was 30 check runs in 2022 and 28 check runs in 2021. We process checks bi-weekly. So there was 25 million.
I know we've had this conversation in the past too, but would it help you if payrolls were processed consistently, starting a payroll period January 1 and December 31st? But from an accounting
I think
standpoint,
that would,
it would take 1 year of pain
yeah,
to adjust, but then after that,
I think that would be a union thing to switch it. You just have to work with them.
would it be something you prefer? Or would it help from an accounting standpoint?
So, but.
I'm trying to pitch softballs here.
It depends on how many it would save me. So we paid 25 million to vendors last year, and in 2021, we paid 22 million. We issued 53 1099s in 2022 and 38 in 2021. New York State local retirement system reporting. In 2020, we upgraded from the legacy reporting to enhanced reporting. So this now requires all employees, regardless if they enroll in the retirement system, to be reported to the retirement system. Of course, Paychex is one of the vendors that does not work with the retirement system as far as making it very easy to submit information. So I have to manually enter all of the wages monthly. we have approximately, depending on the year or the time of the year, for ERS, we have 90 to 130 employees who are enrolled. And for police officers, we have approximately 42 on average.
How much time and effort does that cost you?
It takes me probably 3 hours to enter everything, and then once I upload it, it lets me know the errors.
Per payroll?
Per month. Yeah,
How about, so that's roughly 2.5 payrolls. How about ADP? Are they competitive in cost per payroll?
I think for the most part, it's like if you have in-house payroll. Like you're able to, your IT guys can work to create a report. Paychex allows me to generate an Excel file, but I still have to manually, because you have to break it out by, it's no longer just lump sum wages. I gotta break out regular wages, overtime, holiday.
Right,
So,
so I guess what I'm driving at is it cost competitive? Check it out.
yeah, I can
Steve
check into the-
Needle do this for us and they switch payroll services.
yeah, I can do that.
Or any other payroll service. I'm aware of ADP, it's national.
Yeah. They're always sending me flyers and stuff, so I can reach out. Moving on to budget. So we have monthly budget meetings, and the budget committee is made up of counselors Mannion, Martushell, Duling, town clerk, chief of police, and the highway superintendent. And we work with the department heads around May and June to develop their budgets, which we are currently doing. And we prepare the tentative, preliminary, and final budgets. And then in November, I submit that tax levy report to the state comptroller's office. Financial statements, I help coordinate and assist the auditors with the town of DeWitt financial statements and the local development corporations audit and financial statements. And submit the AUD to the state comptrollers, and for the LDC, we submit that report to the public authorities reporting information system. Cash management, I prepare bank reconciliations monthly for 11 bank accounts and deposit 2 to 3 times a week, whether it's remote or the night drop box at Chase Bank. Workers' compensation, we had 11 new claims in 2022, which we paid wages of approximately $97,000. That consisted of 2 individuals. And we received reimbursements of $5,000, and those are not related to the claims. There's always a lag. Again, getting reimbursed. So we process our claims through Triad, which is a third-party administrator for the Onondaga County Health Insurance Program. Disability claims, process and manage those. We've processed 5 new claims in 2022, paid wages of $18,000 and received $3,500 in insurance reimbursements. Employee benefits is our open enrollment end of October, beginning of November is our open enrollment period. 2022 was a really fun year of open enrollment because we had switched from OSEBA to the Greater Tompkins County plan. In 2022, we paid $3 million in premiums. And and then for the retirees and employee reimbursement, we received $496,000. And then we paid $19,440 in health insurance buyout costs. Grants management. In 2022, we got under contract for the following grants. The fire hydrant upgrade, which was a grant for $500,000. We were reimbursed for $492,800, and that was all we had spent, so. It's not like we got shorted. That grant's still open, and I believe there's still going some upgrades. I think East Syracuse is the only district that's still working. DeWitt has completed all of their upgrades. We received $237,000 for the town hall ADA bathroom renovation. We were reimbursed $103,853 in 2022, and we've been fully reimbursed as of 2023.
Fully reimbursed, you mean the entire?
We've
237?
received the full 237.
Okay, thank you.
And then the other grant we got under contract was the Main Street grant for the Jamesville Fire Station. Storage barn, the community room, and demolition. But we have not had we didn't have any expenditures in 2022, but that was a $473,000 grant with a $287,000 match.
And who does the match?
The town and the Jamesville Fire are responsible for that match.
Yeah, over multiple years, we don't tend to proceed. There was at one point in time a commitment from PM Hunter on the community. Well, I believe did you get the contract on that?
No, it's in part of my report.
Yeah, so that was the intended match.
And then so grants that we received in 2022 that were from prior years, we received $125,000 for the Dunroven Franklin Park Playground. That was from 2019. The Carrier Park Electric Charging Stations, there was a grant for $45,000, and we received the full $45,000. Carrier Park Phase 2, I was working with Terry Brown on getting reimbursed for that. We actually did just get reimbursed the full $500,000 in June this year. And then the
Yeah, I was just thinking, wow.
very long.
I have you guys been working for a long time. Congratulations. That's
Very painful.
Yeah, very painful.
Aaron, Terry.
that's fantastic news.
Yeah. I was very surprised when I saw the bank. I was like, what is this?
What year was that grant originally?
That was supposed to be for phase 1 of Carrier Park, so 2014. And then they made us move it to phase 2.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Terry Brown, big thank you, Doug. The woman at State Parks, we've been out.
No, I know all you guys have been like working on it.
The person that was responsible for the assignment of it at the parks level retired.
Well, I can say on the record that Terry Brown told me about this a couple of weeks ago, and the man was practically dancing on the ceiling. So terrific. Thank you so much.
so, and then the other one we're still working on, it's the LWRP 2 grant, and that's only $11,000.
Got most of that.
Yeah, that one we got most of. This is the final payment.
That was a huge win too.
Yes.
That was, the total was several $100,000.
Yeah. Grants that we were awarded in 2022, but have not gotten under contract is the Butternut Creek Trail renovation, which was $200,000. That everything has been submitted for that. We're just waiting for it to complete their review and award it to us or give us under contract. And then the Jamesville Community Center, we received $500,000, and that we're still working to get under contract. We're just waiting on ownership.
Right, we're doing a 2029.
And then other reporting was Friends of Parks and Recreation. I prepared the annual, well, I don't prepare, sorry. I work with the tax people from Grossman and Seymour to prepare the annual 990. I prepared the monthly bank reconciliations and monthly accounts payable and deposits. Town of DeWitt Local Development Corp, the financial statements, budget submission, bank reconciliations and the biweekly accounts payable. And then bond payments are outstanding bond as of 12/31/2022 is $6,716,592. We paid $520,000 in principal and $157,000 in interest.
Excellent.
Probably could come up with more of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's good.
Nice job. Yes.
Hey, Carrie.
Hey, any questions? Okay. All right, let's see, we've got a couple of remaining items, the sewer hookup discussion.
This is really just knowledge bases. Folks over on Lynn Acres are very, there's somebody that needs to hook up and to the sewer and they prefer if they could do it through the town efforts. So I just need to know. And we talked a little bit about this. Max talked with Doug a little bit about it. It seems like it's big infrastructure is already in place across the entire area, from Wegmans west to Onondaga Country Club. The cross lines are there, so it'll be lateral hookups. My question is, what Ed do you need so that I can see if this is something feasible for the town to move forward with in terms of doing a large scale project and having those specific taxpayers help or you whatever, I don't even know the right words to say what could happen, but the town would bond for it and then those taxpayers would carry the cost over years. But what is the next logical step other than informal conversation?
Well, there's two tracks you can take, and one of them I wanted to take for years, and that is the town-wide sewer district, right? You can lay, if we repeat our water district or their trash district or whatever, you just include the whole town. And you don't have to charge everyone in the district inclusion. You can add like a quarter fee, right? 20 cents or 25 cents administrative fee, so that everybody's in the district and participating. Then you layer the fees depending on whether they have a sewer hookup or don't. And then the advantage of that, I think, is that then you can slowly take neighborhoods or locations and bring in projects without that total area carrying the burden of that project. It's a little bit of subsidy spread around the rest of the town, because right now it's almost impossible for a small area like Linden Road or Edwards Drive or whatever to put sewer in place that runs down that street, because under state law, they're obligated to carry the entire burden. We've been interested in this, believe it or not, just east of PJ's Plaza isn't on sewers along Route 290.
Really?
The cost of those buildings and structures to have a sewer are above and beyond what state guidelines would recommend for a sewer cost. So Santero building and those areas in there need sorely. So anyways, I don't know how long it would take us to get a town-wide sewer district. I imagine months. I don't want to do the minimum of a month or two. The other is you can have an out-of-district hookup. And
That's what we do now.
Right, that's what we do now, and that's pretty simple, but I guarantee the costs are gonna be high.
So my thought of talking with Doug on this was, rather than go strictly with the townwide sewer district, because it is, if you're including Edwards and Linden and Lynn Acres, there are a number of lots in there. That it might be possible, because the mains are already in east-west there, that you just have to go up and down the street, that it might be possible to have a sewer district or service area.
We talked about a service area.
Service area that would cover those areas, that would then allow people to hook up to without, and it would be able to be covered by, because there's enough houses there in theory. I think the issue is for them, it's saying they're starting to fail in that area, and so it's
costly, they're gonna cover the costs one way or the other.
Right.
So whether it's, tens of thousands of dollars to fix the septic, or tens of thousands of dollars to do the sewer, but that can go on your tax bill over the next 30 years. It might be cost effective for them to do the sewers. The out of, and when I looked into it with Doug, the out of district hookup really doesn't work for most because the sewer line goes east-west. And so there's no, like, if you're even 3 houses, 4 houses down the road, there's no way to get to it.
Right.
So the town, the district, we need to pay to get the lines going up and down the road so that then you could have the laterals.
Yeah, and so Max, now, it's the money, a gentleman was just quoted, he doesn't have room to put in a new tank or a new septic, his yard's too small where the leach fields are. So it comes down to destroying his whole backyard and ripping all of that up for an entirely new system or paying an upfront cost of 30 to 40,000 for the sewer hookup. And folks are just kind of, that's one particular house. We talked about the other house where they just started digging inappropriately because they were out of options as well.
Right.
So I think I would suspect, having talked casually to enough people in my larger neighborhood, that they're interested in the sewer option. They understand there would be a cost placed to the homeowner, that it wouldn't be the town would help get the initial project off the ground, but the homeowners would be relying upon the ultimate costs. And everybody is favorable to that versus continuing on with their septic.
It's actually more impetus to set these things in place. So do we want to authorize Doug here today to set up a townwide sewer district plan?
Whether it's townwide or whether it's
Just that
neighborhood.
service area?
Yeah.
Other complaints in other areas?
There are, apparently Cattell Road has spotty, not everybody, but just a few.
And then there's an area around where Karen lives, that does not
I
also.
just don't see the townwide, because I know there's areas up in Jamestown, sewers don't exist.
With the service area, is that where we were talking about?
Yeah, we talked about maybe doing it in small chunks, but maybe doing, try to get a GIS map of where the areas are. And then once we see where the areas are, then maybe 2 or 3 of us could take a look and say, we're getting a lot of calls in these 3 areas, and maybe not so much this one. And then take the next step and see what the cost would be for some of those areas to potentially do a service area. So it wouldn't potentially have to be contingent like a district. But as long as the costs are all the same, it just adds a second layer to go to the console.
With a service area, so it's like kind of a backdoor to the townwide. It doesn't need to be contiguous.
Understood.
It can-
No, I don't mean to be, don't interpret my words that each project would be all accomplished at the same time.
Yeah.
What I want to do is set the legal framework in place so that the district is there and the cost can then be incorporated, just like water projects inside the water district. We don't do water projects on a townwide basis, right? But we have a district in place, and we'll replace water lines in Newcourt area. There's a structure in place to absorb those costs. And so you can do each service area independently as a project, but it makes sense to me to do that inside the framework of a district that can already absorb those service area projects.
Which one gets us to putting a shovel in the ground faster? It sounds like we want to do a sewer district. There would be a administrative delay.
I'd say right now, 2 paths. One is we ask Matt to start to progress the townwide district. And 2, we ask Doug to put an engineering plan for the service area that he was talking about.
I think that makes sense. Because I think they can be done in tandem, or if, this doesn't.
I think they could, right? So I mean, my experience tells me when you look at and we have this experience with water and sewer districts, when you look at a larger area, you go to referendum, you know, with any luck, hopefully it passes, but if it doesn't, then you start carving pieces off, right? So you look at the pockets where people have the most passion and need, right? If you start big, you get everything, right? If you don't, then you gotta start lopping off.
Right now, I see immediate need that you're talking about in Linden. And I'd love to expand to Edwards and Eli and the rest of that area, but I also see frustration and anger of the businesses along Route 290 that have languished for years because we haven't acted. So like putting,
Yeah, let's go work on them together. Yeah.
district in place. We go back to the Santero group and others that say, here's what got in place for them.
And Sarah can do that with since this is not a clandestine, obviously, operation, you will be able to tell those people who have approached you, and it'll also be on our record that this is the plan regarding the sewers.
Okay, and you can come back to us with like a cost estimate, will take you to prepare the cost estimate for the Eli. You know, that entire area just east of Wegmans.
I think Ely may be on sewers. I've talked to two.
There's a couple of houses on it, but I don't think it goes down.
It doesn't go all the way down.
Okay. Some people, okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah, those that have been closest
Wegmans.
to the Genesee Street main that's hooked up. But, you know, you get down all the way down the streets. In fact, some of those streets may have some pumping issues. Right, because they run downhill. So the sewers at that end of the streets are gonna have to have a pump station or something. Send back up to Genesee Street.
It doesn't have to go to Genesee Street, right? Because there's the line in the middle from Wegmans, right?
Yeah, and it goes back and around
Yeah.
the backside, yeah.
Right. There might be, so that's what the engineers want.
That's what he. There's still gonna be uphill battles.
It all rolls downhill.
Sarah,
All right, so I'll entertain a motion from Sarah to authorize Doug to prepare a sewer district plan, I guess, or service area plan for the Linden. Call it the Linden corridor.
Does that neighborhood have to have a name? I don't think it does. Linden.
Linden.
Oh, yeah, Linden Corners, yeah.
Broadly through that.
I so second Sarah.
Second from Karen, I'm calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried, and then. I think our water district or sewer district.
Thank you, everybody.
We have a streetlight district that does the same thing. The devil will be in the details of establishing rates for the different service areas. And the cost of the existing service areas would have to continue until those bonds are paid off. But eventually, over time, the hope is that you get a series of sewer costs that are consistent across the district. Okay, fireworks noise.
Yeah, this is, I'm looking on behalf of the residents, of which I am one. Some kind of a declaratory judgment, for want of a better term, Matt. We are having private people who are violating our noise ordinance with reference to fireworks. They are popping and screaming all over the neighborhoods, and we can hear them from up at the JD High School all the way through the area. And they're crazy, and for us, actually, it was 2:32 a.m. And we could hear disparate in other sections later on, and I had people ask me, do we ban fireworks? And my response was that we have the private companies who have not violated the noise ordinance have the permits. What can be done for the private people who are setting these things off?
Fireworks are not allowed in New York State generally, but from July first or second to July fourth, they are allowed in a limited exemption. So people, you heard it, that was July fourth, that you heard.
Yeah, that's correct.
I suspect that will be the only day you'll hear fireworks.
Thank you.
What you can do to stop, I don't think there's a lot you can do to stop people from firing them off. I know it was late, it woke me up too. But they're gonna do it July fourth,
But the rest of the time,
and the state allows it just for
Remember
that.
that, this is another enforcement issue.
I understand that's
I
why.
don't want to enforce it, I'm not sure what.
Right, no, that's what I'm saying. But right now you have a noise ordinance in place. So
Exactly.
if somebody violates it, the neighbor can call 911 and the police can come and the police can knock on the door after the fact and say, "You just launched fireworks. I could see the evidence." It's a conversational thing that the police were gonna have with the visual, but I think it's another case by case basis, and I would recommend if you have neighbors coming to you over these type of issues, that they contact their neighbors. That they know if fired off a firework at 2 o'clock in the morning and just say, hey, could you be a little more respectful next year? And
Put out a townwide notice before July fourth saying, Gary just saying last year it was a little too late. We appreciate if you kept it before. Whatever time.
But one of the things I encourage people to do is talk to their neighbors, right? I mean, you can't expect the town, the police department, the government to do something that common sense between neighbors can oftentimes help.
I think that helps, yeah, because like the rest of us, people know that we're counselors and they come to our doors. So thank you.
Okay, I think we've got a couple of personnel issues in executive session. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed right now in the open session? All right, I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session. Jack, and a second from Sarah.
Hey, Jason.
Call for
Bye,
vote. All in
Jason.
favor?
Bye.
That's her accent. I don't.